Guilty by Suspicion is a really good film. This was released in 1991. It's written and directed by Irwin Winkler, and we have a cast including Robert De Niro, Annette Bening, George Wendt, Martin Scorsese. Obviously, really solid cast, and it's because of George Wendt that I became aware of this. And when I read the description, I thought that sounds like it could be brilliant, because I love films about Hollywood. Even better, I love films set during the golden era of Hollywood. This was set in the 50s. It's about a director called David Merrill, Robert De Niro's character, who is up against McCarthyism in Hollywood and being accused of a communist and threatening his career, being forced to give names of people, but obviously not wanting to give the names of friends, because why would you do that? I don't want to go into too much detail about McCarthyism. I feel like it would be helpful to have even just a little bit of knowledge about McCarthyism. I feel if you watch this film, having never heard of it, it might be a little hard to follow. Not impossible, but it's a very busy film. It's a very fast-paced film. It's quite long as well. It's just under 2 hours, I think. And it is very quick, and a lot happens. But it doesn't feel rushed, but it is very quick, and we do kind of move really rapidly through this narrative. There are, obviously, some calmer scenes to give us time to breathe, but I feel like if you want to watch this to learn about McCarthyism, I think it would do a great job of showing how intense this time period was, how stressful it would have been, and honestly just how disgusting some people were treated with no logical reason. People were accused of being communists with really no evidence. People were being forced to give names of people who were communists, basically being encouraged to tell on their friends, otherwise their career would be at stake. And I don't want to go into too much detail about the background, not that I'm an expert by any means, but certainly it's a really interesting, quite challenging time in Hollywood, and I think the film does a really great job of highlighting that. I think Merrill is a really interesting protagonist. I really enjoyed following the story from his perspective, pretty much from his perspective. We have a variety of locations. We have my personal favourites, courtroom scenes, and then we have scenes on film sets, and they're like my two favourite sets for films, generally speaking, of course. So for me, it was tremendous fun in that regard, but also quite a challenging watch for the right reasons, because, and again, I'm not an expert, but to me it feels like an accurate representation of how difficult this time period would have been if you worked in Hollywood, because there are just so many aggressive people, and it's very, very difficult to watch with certain, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it seems like some people will stop at nothing to make people either say, yes, I'm a communist, or here's a list of people I know who are, and it's a difficult watch, but I think it's very powerful, very, very well done. We have some great performances. As a George Wendt fan, I can confirm that I was happy with how much he was in it. He's in it a pretty good amount. I quite liked his character as well, and for me, my personal highlights, aside from the solid performances and just the general handling of the narrative, would absolutely be the courtroom scenes and the scenes when we have film sets and things. In terms of it being accurate to the time, I can't say for certain, but it felt accurate. We had some gorgeous vehicles. The costumes didn't look that dated, by which I mean if you showed me a picture of some of these characters, I wouldn't have automatically went, oh, that's set in the 50s, or they're wearing clothing from the 50s, but I'm assuming it's accurate. It looks good. The characters are great. The performances are great. The narrative is very strong. There are a lot of emotions in this. There's a lot of shouting in this. It's an intense experience, and I really thoroughly recommend it. As I said, if you are completely new to McCarthyism and how this affected Hollywood, I would say maybe do even just a tiny bit of background reading. I feel like, as I said, while it does a great job of highlighting this time period, it's a very quick film. There's a lot going on, and I feel like it would be maybe quite difficult to completely keep up with everything if this is your first experience of this situation. So if you're new to McCarthyism, maybe a little bit of background reading could help, but in general, it's a great film. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely appealed to a lot of personal preferences, but even if that were not the case, I'd still say it's a really solid film. Guilty by Suspicion is pretty fantastic, and without question, I'm very happy to recommend it.